Hello and good evening. Today it is Friday, March 10th, 2023. And for this video today, basically the best way I could describe it is that it'll be basically a rant-ish type of video. Because what I'm planning on doing in this video here today is I will be discussing and basically ranting about the XFL not being televised in Canada so far here in 2023. So before I go on any further, I also want to make sure that I take one quick second just to make sure all of you viewers watching this video know that this video will be a podcast style black screen video for the entire duration of this. So feel free to listen to this on the side while you're doing other things, because there will literally be nothing to see besides the black screen that you see here now. So anyways, excuse me. Let's get into what I want to discuss in this video today. And it is the XFL televised or lack of being televised here in Canada conversation, because it is something that I am not happy about. So far here as of this video, I believe we are now in week 4 of the 2023 XFL season, and not a single game has been televised here in Canada. And not only that, but even on the American channels, because even here in Canada, on our satellite and cable TV providers, usually most, if not all, cable satellite providers here in Canada do also offer a bunch of regional American channels as well. I know, for example, here in Western Canada where I live, if you have TELUS Optic TV, which is one of our cable providers, or Shaw, for example, I know that both cable providers do provide American channels, like, for example, Q13 Fox based out of Seattle, Washington, just as an example. So far here in the 2023 XFL season, even the American feeds that I'm able to get with my family's cable, not even on the American channels has there been a single XFL game to watch. Now, although Canada does have FX channels, we have Canadian FX channels. The FX channels in America are different. Also, we do not have ESPN. Instead of ESPN, we have TSN here in Canada. So I'm going to jump back to 2020, just before the unspecified virus of unspecified origin, as the YouTuber The Critical Drinker would say, showed up and brought us into the pandemic that we've been dealing with now for the past 3 years. So just before COVID-19 showed up and unfortunately put us in a pandemic, sorry. I know one thing about the XFL in 2020 was that even here in Canada, us Canadians were able to watch XFL games on TSN, and if there was the odd occurrence where there was a game not televised on TSN, we were actually still able to look at the American feeds, and sometimes you would be able to get that extra game on one of the American channels, like, say, one of the regional Fox channels in the States, or ABC, for example, where maybe there's a game only televised on that channel, but not simulcasted on TSN here in Canada. So we were still able to get those games. But now, fast forward 3 years later, and supposedly the only way us Canadians can view any XFL game so far here in 2023 is if we have a subscription to TSN Plus. Now, until I looked that up recently on, I guess it was Google search. Maybe it was Reddit. I don't think it was, but I could be wrong. Until I read that, I didn't even know that TSN Plus existed. But not only that, I think that if anybody is paying money every month for a subscription on top of paying for a sports package just to watch the XFL, I mean, if you're a fan of the league or if you have a family member playing in the game or in the XFL right now, I could totally understand you maybe being more willing to pony up some money to just to catch those games. I can understand that. But for the average football fan like myself, you know, besides the sports package that my family has, I mean, I'm not going to go and fork out more money just to watch a couple XFL games a week. I'm not going to do it. To me, it's a waste of money, at least in my opinion. You may not agree with that. But for me, I'm not going to throw extra money just to watch the XFL. Either it's on the channels that I'm able to get with my cable TV that I have, or I'm not going to watch it at all. It's that simple. It's that cut and dry. There is no gray area. It's black and white. Either I get an XFL game on TV and I watch it if I'm off of work, or B, if there's no XFL games televised at all and not available on any channels, whether it's the Canadian sports channels or the American channels us Canadians do have with our TV providers, then I'm not going to be watching any XFL whatsoever. And one thing about the XFL so far that I want to rant about is the lack of televised games here in Canada. I mean, you would think that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would make sure that games were more easily viewable. Now, if you go back 3 years ago to when Vince McMahon still owned this league, the founder of the WWF, World Wrestling Federation, I think he's the founder. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But when he decided to resurrect the XFL and completely revamp it basically 20 years after he tried it and it failed miserably the first time around, Vince McMahon made sure that there were Fox channels and ABC channels and ESPN had TV rights and actually broadcast the games on their channels. Even 3 years ago, before the pandemic began, us Canadians were able to see most XFL games on the 5 TSN channels we have in Canada. So our two main sports channels here in Canada are Rogers Sportsnet and TSN. TSN has 5 channels, while Sportsnet has regional channels for the NHL teams, like, for example, Sportsnet West for the Alberta NHL team, Sportsnet Pacific for the Vancouver Canucks, Sportsnet Ontario for the Leafs and Senators, or the Maple Leafs, and then Sportsnet East for the Ottawa Senators. And I think they've even had rights to the Montreal Canadiens at one point or another, regional rights, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. But anyway, my point is Sportsnet has their regional feeds. They also have Sportsnet 1 and Sportsnet 360. No XFL games on any of those channels. And TSN has 5 channels. Are you telling me that TSN can't find a slot on one of their 5 channels every week to at least broadcast one XFL game every Sunday or every Saturday and Sunday, or preferably every time there's an XFL game at all? I mean, I'm really disappointed because truth is, I was really impressed with what I saw 3 years ago before the pandemic ultimately canceled the revamped resurrection of the XFL. I was really enjoying what I saw. I liked the unique rules. I liked the way that the game was presented as well. The sideline interviews and a lot of the stuff that you would not see in an NFL game. In fact, there were some things that you don't even see in a Canadian Football League game, for that matter, here in Canada. And I also liked that there was something that I could watch every weekend if I was off at work that was football related. I mean, if there were times where there was no NHL hockey, I would put on an XFL game a few years ago. And, you know, I really I was really starting to enjoy the XFL just before the pandemic brought the whole world to a screeching halt, let alone the XFL. But now that Vince McMahon has sold the XFL, I think he had to declare bankruptcy, or at least he did declare bankruptcy on the XFL. Then I know that The Rock, with his ex-wife Danny Garcia, and I think Redbird Capital's the name of the investment company that purchased the XFL alongside those two. Um, you know, you would think that with The Rock of all people owning the XFL now, that you would have a lot more interest in the XFL even now than 3 years ago. And compared to 2020, we know what the XFL was kind of like back in 2020. I mean, when it got restarted, the rules of the game were much better than the first time around. At least that's what I've heard. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, I know one thing that I was really liking was seeing the football fans in St. Louis that had just lost the Rams 5 years prior, back in 2015. I'm talking about back when the XFL restarted in 2020. I really liked seeing so many football fans in St. Louis getting behind this new XFL team that's not even an NFL team, more like a minor pro league. Maybe I'd say like somewhere between the Canadian Football League and the NFL in terms of professional football. I'd say higher than the CFL for sure, because it's in the States. They get paid in American money. Actually, do they get paid? Maybe they get paid in American money here in the CFL, but I'd have to look that up. But anyway, more, at least at the bare minimum, much more exposure being in the United States, playing in the XFL than here in Canada in the Canadian Football League. But with Dwayne Johnson, for anybody who didn't know, he actually had a small stint in the Canadian Football League in the mid-1990s playing for the Calgary Stampeders. And you would think that with that little bit of football history that he has with Canada, that he would at least make sure that us Canadians would get a chance to see his league. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the XFL so far. I mean, I understand that this league is still trying to get off the ground and complete its first full season in over 20 years. So obviously there's going to be some obstacles and bumps in the road along the way to making this league finally work, which I hope that this is a case of third time's the charm. But the fact that not a single XFL game has been carried here in Canada is really disappointing. I have been really looking forward to being able to give this league another chance after what I saw 3 years ago. And the fact that not a single game has been here in Canada or televised here in Canada as of this video is extremely disappointing. In fact, I've even seen a video where supposedly the third attempt at the XFL has had really bad TV numbers so far. Well, if you're putting games on FX in the States and ESPN2, if you're not putting the games on any of the major networks, especially if you are a brand spanking new league that's still trying to get off the ground, still trying to get it established, I mean, kind of hard if you're not putting games on the main most viewed networks in the United States to gain exposure. I mean, to me, putting XFL games on the main American networks like your regional Fox channels, NBC, ABC, etc., is common sense. I mean, if Vince McMahon could do it 3 years ago, why is it that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has not been able to do that so far? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Dwayne Johnson has way more popularity and exposure than Vince McMahon has ever had. I mean, The Rock is a famous actor, let alone a famous wrestler. I mean, I just hope that things are going to change, because if they don't start changing the way that, or changing things up so that at least the major American networks are carrying games like they were 3 years ago, I don't know if this league's going to last very long. Even if it's Dwayne Johnson of all people happening to now own this league, you know, and oh, what was I gonna say here? I just need a sip of water. There we go. You know, something else that I have heard that is good news in my opinion is that supposedly the XFL is now going to try and get more games televised on major networks like Fox and ABC. I mean, I really hope that is the case, because as soon as they do that, they're actually going to have people tuning into those games. Even Canadians like me who have some of the American channels on our cable TV providers, well, I mean, to me, it's common sense. I mean, how do you expect a brand new league to take off if most people aren't even able to see the games? Now, I'm talking as a Canadian, not even living in the United States, but for you American viewers, especially those who want to give this league a chance after what you saw a few years ago, like me. I mean, kind of hard if the only way you can see it is for the average fan is if they have to get FX channels or if they have to have ESPN 2. I mean, I don't know where their rationale is. I mean, if they were able to get those good TV deals to be on the main American networks 3 years ago, what's changed in the past 3 years? I don't see why they wouldn't be able to at least get the games, or at least get one game a week every Sunday on a major network like ABC. I mean, I'm pretty disappointed because, as I say, I want to give this league a chance, but it's kind of hard to give the XFL a chance when I can't even watch any of their freaking games. And I really hope that TSN actually starts putting XFL games on one of their 5 channels, because I'm sure as hell not paying for TSN Plus on top of the sports package that I already have just to watch the XFL. Sorry, I don't have enough interest in the league to the point where I'm going to fork out extra money just to watch the XFL. I'm just not. And I would not be surprised if more people agree with me than disagree on that. But anyways, guys, I'm going to call it a wrap. I didn't realize that I've been talking for 18 minutes, so sorry. I just wanted to share my thoughts on that and elaborate on it a little bit, because it's something that has been really bothering me. It's disappointing. I want to give this league a chance, but as I say, kind of hard to give the XFL a chance when I can't even watch any of their goddamned games. Kind of hard, isn't it? And I'd like to hear some of the thoughts from some of you American viewers too, because I'm sure that not all Americans have FX or even ESPN2. More likely the latter than the former. But still, I mean, I really hope that they get this figured out, because I don't know about you folks watching this video, but I certainly want to give this league another shot. But anyways, folks, feel free to leave some comments down below. If you got anything you want to add, if there's anything you want to correct me on, feel free to do that too. I'd appreciate it, actually. So at this point in time, feel free to leave your comments down below. I'm going to call it a wrap, and until my next video, you guys, take care, and of course, as always, bye for now.